Come on, Kelly.
Everybody thinks they're gonna get a chance to punch some Nazi in the face at Normandy. I used to think I was gonna get a chance.
And we are live. Welcome, folks, to the American Movie Podcast. This is your host, Matthew Benjamin. What's going on? Today, we're going over The Altered Carbon. I added the. So, Altered Carbon, I really like this show. The detail in it was amazing. Okay, so let me get you a baseline of the story a little bit. So you're in the future, and they can pretty much, they have this little disc that they put at the bottom of, your little reptile brainstem limbic area in the back of your neck. They put a little platelet thing, and that's how they exchange a certain person's consciousness to a different person's body, which they refer to as sleeves. So that's the world we're in. So it's all revolving around this guy Kovac. And this guy was actually arrested for 250 years, and they put his consciousness on hold, and then they put him back in the sleeve. He wakes up, it's 250 years, and he's like, what's going on? So the first episode, I started watching this, and I was like, I really don't know what I'm watching. And so the mysteriousness of that was kind of fun. It was kind of fun not knowing exactly where this thing's going to go, because it's very beautiful to see, and it's a very visually appealing show. It kind of reminds me of Ghost in the Shell, if you saw that, or kind of like, Ghost in the Shell more than Blade Runner, because Blade Runner was very dark. This is at least, it's got some pretty like neon colors. So Kovac is arrested, put on in isolation, I guess, with his consciousness, wakes up 250 years, and now he doesn't really want to be there. But he gets found by this guy, and this man's pretty much a trillionaire, and he's wanting to find out who murdered his previous body, and he's not sure who it is. So he hires Kovac to find his murderer and to solve this mystery. So that is the premise, and you figure that out within pretty close to the beginning. So I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's a people toss around the word noir, neo-noir, and noir is just like a genre that's like, it's just dark and mysterious. That's all it means, is noir, neo-noir. So it's kind of like just a detective story. So like, I think like Maltese Falcon, if you've ever seen that, that's like a noir. That's like an old noir. So that's what it means. And this is very much that. This is a detective story with a person who's not a detective, who's out of his element, doing a bunch of drugs. And this is a graphic show. This is a very violent graphic show. There's a lot of nudity on both genders, full frontal. So if that doesn't sound like your cup of tea, you probably won't like this movie. But if you do like sci-fi and you can withstand some violence and some nudity, you'll probably like this show. I think Netflix has to find a happy medium in between length of episodes and the storytelling, because I've seen multiple series where the story was great and the performances were great, but it just seemed to spread a little bit thin. And there was personally, there was a couple moments where I'm just like, man, this is a slow show, and then immediately it picked up again. But there's just certain elements and storylines and positions the guys put in that weren't really, they were cool, but not absolutely necessary. So it was like 10 episodes. It could have been 6, but overall, it's good. I mean, it's not an award winner, but I think it's great for what it is. I think for a Netflix series, all the performances were incredible. Some hokey, cheesy lines. So Kovac is introduced to the multi-billionaire guy, and he's trying to solve his murder. Here's an example of the cheesy lines. So obviously Kovac has been frozen or whatever for 250 years, okay? So the multi-billionaire guy brings him in, and he's like, hey, have you ever heard of full spectrum RSD cognitive enhancing leftovers on an external hard drive? And obviously the dude's like, no. So it was just like, it was like a humongous, elaborate circumstance, or like outsourcing hard drive of his consciousness that he obviously has never heard of. So it was just so funny to hear that. Like, I laughed out loud listening to that. I was like, no, he hasn't. Like, oh. But, so yeah, so the cheesy lines sometimes, it's kind of like a, it's a little soapy. I wouldn't say soapy, but there's some lines in there that are pretty funny that cracked me up. It's just like, really, dude? So, anyways, Altered Carbon, all right. Definitely visually very cool. Performances are good. Cheesy lines. But it's an episodic mystery. So I liked it. I did like it. So check it out if you'd like. That's streaming right now on Netflix. And if you're along for the live stream right now, I'm going through, I just did Hostiles, did Altered Carbon, and now I'm going to do the Cloverfield Paradox. The Cloverfield Paradox. So if you're on the live stream, stay tuned and check that out. Also, if you're listening the retroactively way. Retroactively. Yeah, that's right. So, thank you so much for listening. This has been Matthew Benjamin with the American Movie Podcast. If you want to support the podcast, go to audibletrial.com/American. You can get a free Audible trial. That'll support the podcast. And also, if you want to start your very own podcast, you can go to socialcreative.org/podcast. I created the podcast publisher. Check that baby out. It's chock full of information, anything you'd ever need in order to start your very own podcast. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of Altered Carbon, or if you plan on seeing it, or if you have any questions about it. So, thank you so much. Ciao. 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 Until next time, folks. Bye-bye-bye.
I've been frozen for 30 years, okay? Throw me a frickin' bone here.
Snap out. What, a hot older woman made you feel her pants?
You don't have the technology or the steady hands to pull off a procedure like that, so ha!
You motherfucking son of a bitch.